King Solomon, son of David, ruled the United Kingdom of Israel with a wisdom that seemed to flow straight from the divine. His kingdom flourished, marked by peace and prosperity, yet it was his deep sense of justice that set him apart. In his grand palace in Jerusalem, where the sunlight gleamed off marble and gold, Solomon's decisions carried the weight of truth. While he was known for his wealth, his real power lay in his unmatched ability to see beyond the surface, discerning right from wrong with clarity that left no room for doubt. His reputation as a wise and compassionate ruler stretched far beyond Israel's borders, and kings, queens, and travelers from distant lands journeyed to seek his counsel. But Solomon's greatest test didn't come from treaties or battles. It came from a moment that demanded not just wisdom, but an understanding of the human heart. The court was silent as two women, each desperate and tearful, stood before him, each claiming to be the mother of the same infant. The tension in the room was palpable, the air thick with the weight of their pleas. Solomon, with his piercing gaze, didn't rush to judge. Instead, he paused, allowing the emotions in the room to sink in. This was not just a matter of law, it was a matter of life and love. A moment where true wisdom would be measured not by knowledge, but by the ability to see through pain and desperation to the heart of truth. One morning, two women were brought before King Solomon, their faces etched with grief and desperation. Both claimed to be the mother of the same infant, and the air in the court was thick with tension. As they stood before the king, the room fell silent, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone present. Their voices trembled as they pleaded, each one holding on to hope while fearing the loss of the child they both claimed. The first woman, her eyes swollen with tears, stepped forward and spoke. "My lord, this woman and I live under the same roof. She gave birth to a son, and 3 days later I also gave birth to a son. One night while she slept, her baby died. In her sorrow, she swapped her lifeless child with mine, taking my living son as her own." Her words hung in the air, heavy with accusation and pain. The courtroom murmured, the tension rising like a storm. The second woman, her voice sharp and defensive, quickly countered, "No, the living child is mine. She lies." Her denial was fierce, her face flushed with anger. Solomon, seated on his grand throne, watched them intently. His gaze was calm, yet piercing, as if he could see beyond the surface of their words. The women's voices echoed through the chamber, the desperation in their pleas as raw as the tears that streamed down their faces. The court waited, breathless, as Solomon contemplated the impossible decision that lay before him. The air in the courtroom was thick with tension, almost suffocating. The two women, each with desperation etched into their faces, stood before King Solomon, their voices trembling as they laid claim to the child. There were no witnesses, no evidence to guide the truth. The child, still too young to speak, sat innocently between them, unaware of the turmoil swirling around him. Every breath, every shuffle of feet from the court's onlookers seemed to echo through the chamber, amplifying the weight of the moment. Solomon remained silent, his gaze sharp, cutting through the noise of the accusations. His eyes flicked from one woman to the other, reading their faces, searching for something deeper than their words. This wasn't just about determining who the child belonged to. It was a test of his ability to pierce the veil of emotion, to reach the core of truth that lay hidden beneath the surface. The crowd watched, breathless, as Solomon reclined in his throne, the golden light of the setting sun casting long shadows across the room, framing the scene with an almost divine stillness. Time seemed to slow as the weight of the decision loomed over everyone, but especially over the two women who now awaited the king's verdict. Would Solomon's wisdom once again reveal the hidden truth, or would the conflict remain unresolved, like so many tangled human emotions? With an air of calm authority, Solomon sat back on his throne, the weight of the decision heavy in the room. His voice, steady and unshaken, broke the silence. "Bring me a sword." His command cut through the tension like a blade. "Cut the living child in two," he continued, "and give half to each woman." Gasps echoed through the courtroom, and a wave of shock rippled across the faces of all who stood witness. The horror of his words struck like lightning, freezing the room in disbelief. The soldiers, gripping their weapons, exchanged uneasy glances, unsure if they had heard their king correctly. Could this truly be the wisdom for which Solomon was so famous? Solomon's face remained composed, his sharp gaze locked on the two women, not revealing a trace of emotion. Every eye in the court was fixed on him, breath held, waiting for what would come next. Time seemed to slow as the women processed his devastating words. Would they allow the unimaginable to happen? In the heavy silence, the tension swelled, thick as the air before a storm, and the fate of the innocent child hung in the balance. The first woman's eyes widened in horror, her face pale as the weight of Solomon's command sank in. Her heart raced, and with trembling hands, she clutched the edge of her cloak. "No," she cried out, her voice cracking with desperation. "Give her the child. Do not harm him. Let him live, even if it means I lose him forever." Tears streamed down her cheeks, her words drenched in raw emotion. She pleaded, not for herself, but for the life of the child. Her love was so fierce, so selfless, that it shattered the hearts of everyone in the room. The second woman, however, stood unmoved. Cold and calculating, she crossed her arms and tilted her chin defiantly. Her voice was chillingly calm as she spat. "If I can't have him, neither of us will. Go ahead, divide him." Her words hung in the air like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over the room. For a moment, the entire court held its breath. The tension was palpable, as if the very air had grown heavy with the weight of the moment. Solomon watched in silence, his wise eyes studying the two women, absorbing every flicker of emotion. Slowly, a soft smile tugged at the corners of his lips. The true mother had revealed herself, not through words or claims, but through her sacrifice. Her willingness to give up the child to save his life shone like a beacon, illuminating the depth of her love. Solomon's gaze softened, for in that moment, the essence of maternal love had spoken louder than any argument ever could. Solomon raised his hand, his voice calm yet commanding. "Put away the sword," he declared, the tension in the room palpable. "Do not harm the child. Give him to the first woman. She is his true mother." A stunned silence fell over the court before it erupted into murmurs of astonishment. The weight of Solomon's words hung in the air, as those present marveled at the brilliance of his judgment. The tension that had gripped the room moments earlier dissolved, replaced by a quiet sense of awe. The young mother, her face streaked with tears, collapsed in relief, clutching the child close to her chest. Her sobs of gratitude echoed through the chamber, a mother's love made tangible for all to see. Across from her, the second woman stood frozen, her cold demeanor betraying her earlier claim. Solomon's eyes, sharp and discerning, had seen through the facade. He hadn't needed proof or grand gestures, only the truth that lived in the heart of a mother willing to sacrifice everything for her child. The wisdom of Solomon didn't lie in his power, but in his profound understanding of the human spirit. He knew that real love, the kind that could not be faked, would always reveal itself in moments of crisis. The court murmured with admiration, recognizing that they had witnessed not just a clever judgment, but an act of deep compassion. The king's legacy would forever echo this truth, that the greatest strength comes not from force, but from love and understanding. Word of Solomon's judgment spread like wildfire, sweeping through the kingdom and beyond, carried on the lips of every traveler, merchant, and nobleman. The people marveled not just at the outcome, but at how their king, with unshakable calm, had unraveled a problem that seemed impossible to solve. They whispered of the moment when the sword was raised and time seemed to stand still, only for Solomon's brilliant wisdom to shine through like the breaking dawn. His ability to navigate such a delicate and emotional case, seeing through the haze of lies and uncovering the deepest truth, left the kingdom in awe. From distant lands, rulers and common folk alike journeyed to witness Solomon's rulings with their own eyes, eager to feel the gravity of his presence, to hear the soft but commanding voice that carried justice. In marketplaces and courts, the story of the two mothers and their desperate pleas became legend. It wasn't just a tale of cleverness, it was a reflection of Solomon's heart. A ruler so deeply rooted in morality that he could feel the pulse of truth even in the most tangled of circumstances. His wisdom, many said, was a divine gift, but it was also something more. It was his unwavering connection to the values that guided his reign: justice, compassion, and the understanding that true leadership meant looking into the hearts of his people. Solomon's legacy grew not from wealth or power, but from the knowledge that his judgments were a reflection of a higher truth that bound all people together. Throughout his reign, Solomon's wisdom shaped not just his rule, but the very fabric of his kingdom. Under his guidance, the Grand Temple in Jerusalem rose, a testament to his vision and devotion. His kingdom flourished, borders expanded, and alliances formed, bringing prosperity and peace to his people. Yet it wasn't the glittering wealth or towering monuments that cemented Solomon's legacy. It was his gift for justice. In every judgment, he looked beyond the surface, seeing into the depths of human nature. His ability to resolve disputes with fairness, empathy, and insight became the foundation of his greatness. Among all the tales of his wisdom, none echoed louder than the story of the two mothers and the child. It captured the hearts of his people and spread far beyond Israel's borders. In this moment of raw emotion and impossible choices, Solomon didn't just rely on laws or logic. He understood the intricacies of love, sacrifice, and the unspoken truths of the human heart. His judgment revealed that true wisdom isn't simply about knowing facts. It's about feeling the pulse of the people, seeing the world through their eyes, and delivering justice with compassion. Solomon's legacy remains one of the finest examples of moral integrity and justice in human history. His story endures, a timeless reminder that true leadership is not measured by power or wealth, but by the ability to wield wisdom with kindness and the courage to uphold justice for all.